The sun blazed overhead, casting a relentless heat that enveloped the house, which stood in an eerie stillness, more silent than ever before. In the heart of the kitchen I stood, knife glinting as it sliced through vibrant fruits, each chop echoing in the silence, a desperate attempt to drown out the swirling chaos in my mind. My husband was away once again, consumed by work that seemed to require every ounce of his attention, leaving our family in the shadows of his obligations. Marianne, the long hours had become a familiar companion, weaving themselves into the fabric of my existence, while the loneliness wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. Yet there was an undeniable shift in the air today. Ethan, my 21-year-old stepson, burst into the kitchen without warning. His presence radiated an effortless charm, infused with a vibrant energy that illuminated the space around him. As the years slipped by, my affection for him deepened, weaving him into the very fabric of my family. Yet recently, I had begun to perceive the faintest shifts in his demeanor towards me, and the urge to overlook them was slipping away. "Hey, need any help?" he inquired, his tone relaxed but tinged with a hint of hesitation. He cast a fleeting glance at the fruits I was slicing, then turned his eyes to me, his gaze lingering just a heartbeat longer than necessary. A smile crept across my face as I extended the knife towards him. "Absolutely. Begin with the cantaloupe." He nodded, stepping closer, his presence beside me palpable as he fumbled with the knife, the blade glinting in the light as he began to slice with an uncertain hand. At first, his hands remained steady, a calm facade in the thickening tension. But as the moment stretched on, a subtle tremor began to creep into his grip, betraying the storm brewing beneath the surface. In that fleeting instant, our fingers grazed as I reached for the bowl, and time seemed to stand still. He froze, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, before he recoiled, murmuring an apology that hung in the air between us. "It's fine," I said with a casual air, masking the tension that hung thick in the air. Yet deep within, an unsettling awareness of him began to take root, refusing to be ignored. As we toiled side by side, I felt his gaze lingering on me, a fleeting spark of curiosity that vanished the moment I turned to meet his eyes. A whisper of uncertainty lingered in the air, a barely noticeable pause that crackled with an unfamiliar tension, sending shivers down my spine. The walls seemed to close in, the air growing heavy and suffocating. "Looks like we're all set," I declared, shattering the stillness as I slid the completed salad onto the counter, the vibrant colors gleaming under the kitchen lights. Ethan nodded, a faint flush creeping across his cheeks, as if a secret shame lingered just beyond his grasp. He hesitated, the air thick with unspoken words, before murmuring something about a phone call and slipping out of the room, leaving a palpable tension in his wake. As I stood there, solitude enveloped me, my gaze fixed on the vacant doorway, the echoes of our conversation swirling in my thoughts like a haunting melody. I convinced myself it was merely a fleeting instance, a whisper in the wind that would soon fade away. Ethan was young, his demeanor hinting at shyness or perhaps an unease about something lurking just beyond the surface. Yet, beneath that exterior, I sensed there was much more to him than met the eye. Every fleeting glance, the brush of fingertips, the tremor in his voice, it all seemed intentional, charged with an unspoken energy, even if he hadn't meant for it to be. As the evening shadows deepened around me, I sank into the couch, anticipation coiling in my stomach. My husband, Ethan, was late, and with each passing moment, an unsettling sensation crept in. A whisper of change that lingered in the air, hinting that something had irrevocably altered between us. It lingered in the periphery, a whisper of darkness slipping through the edges of my vision, undeniable and persistent, haunting my every thought. The days that followed were shrouded in an unsettling atmosphere, as if an unseen barrier had emerged between Ethan and me, a truth neither of us dared to confront. He began to linger in the shadows of the house, volunteering for chores that had once seemed beneath him, his presence a curious blend of familiarity and unease. Initially, I dismissed it as coincidence, but soon the unsettling truth emerged. His presence was anything but random. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting warm shadows across the living room, I found myself lost in the rhythmic motion of folding laundry. Suddenly, the tranquility was broken by the sound of footsteps. Ethan had entered the room. He remained silent, a shadow on the couch, As the flickering light of the TV cast an eerie glow around the room, I continued my tasks, yet an unsettling awareness prickled at the back of my mind. His gaze lingered on me, darting in and out of my periphery, each stolen glance a silent challenge, a secret unspoken. A shiver ran down my spine, a creeping sense of dread that I fought to conceal. "You've been busy," he remarked after a moment, his voice light, yet his gaze held a weight that suggested deeper concerns. I focused on maintaining the order, my eyes avoiding his piercing gaze. He remained silent, the stillness hanging in the air, thick and suffocating, far longer than it ever should have. At last I raised my gaze, and his eyes captured mine in an unbreakable hold. His expression held a flicker of something, curiosity perhaps, or a shadow of something far more profound, that sent a shiver down my spine. As the week drew to a close, I found myself drawn to the shimmering pool, seeking solace in its tranquil waters, yearning to untangle the thoughts that clouded my mind. Just when I thought I'd have the evening to myself, Ethan showed up, his face a mix of relief and exhaustion. He said he needed a break from his studies, but I could sense there was more to his visit than just a simple escape. With a swift motion, he tossed his towel onto a nearby chair, then leaped into the water, embracing the cool depths without a moment's pause. I lingered on my lounge chair, feigning deep concentration in a book that held my attention captive. As he emerged from the depths of the pool, droplets cascading from his hair and shoulders, an irresistible urge pulled my gaze upward. He caught my gaze, and for a fleeting heartbeat, neither of us dared to look away. "Are you really not going to let me in?" he inquired, his tone airy, yet the weight of his gaze bore a profound significance. "No," I insisted, shaking my head with conviction. "I'm perfectly fine here." He glided through the water, drawing nearer to the edge, where he paused, arms draped over the cool, tiled side of the pool. His gaze held me captive, a lingering intensity that felt far too intimate. The heat surged inside me, ignited not by the sun's rays, but by the palpable tension that crackled in the air between us. "You've been quiet lately," he murmured, his voice taking on a gentler cadence. I shrugged, an instinctive move to divert the attention away from me. Exhaustion weighs heavily on me, a relentless shadow that clings to my every thought. Ethan held his gaze, a silent storm brewing in his eyes, revealing that he saw right through my facade. His skepticism hung heavy in the air, unspoken yet palpable, leaving me on edge. Emerging from the shimmering depths of the pool, he pulled himself up, water cascading off his skin as he reached for his towel, the fabric soft against his touch as he began to dry off. As he strode by, water droplets splattering against the searing pavement, my heart began to race uncontrollably. In the stillness that followed his departure, I remained, ensnared in a whirlwind of memories, each one echoing in the recesses of my mind. A palpable tension hung in the air, an undeniable force stirring within me, something I was not prepared to face. The intensity of his gaze, the way he hovered close, transformed the air between us into something charged and electric, far from innocent. The act was intentional, and its gravity loomed large, an undeniable presence that demanded attention. The clock ticked ominously in the stillness of the night, as shadows danced in the corners of the dimly lit house. As I stepped into the kitchen, the cool air wrapped around me, and I reached for a glass of water, yearning to wash away the clutter in my mind. The air hung thick, suffocating under the weight of the summer heat, yet it was the palpable tension, simmering and unresolved, that truly enveloped the scene, a storm brewing in the silence of the past few weeks. To my surprise, there was Ethan, bare-chested and casually leaning against the counter, his hands diving into the depths of the fridge. "You're up late," I remarked, attempting to keep my tone light, but the tremor in my voice revealed the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. He replied, his gaze fixed elsewhere. "Couldn't sleep." He shut the fridge door with a soft thud and pivoted, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. His expression held me captive, a captivating blend of vulnerability and daring that left me breathless, unlike anything I had encountered before. Silence enveloped us, a heavy pause stretching between us, as if the world had come to a standstill. The silence enveloped us, a deafening void brimming with unspoken words that hung heavily in the air, each one a ghost of what we both feared to voice. The intensity of his gaze pressed down on me, his eyes fixated not on the glass I held, but on my very being. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you," he said, his voice laced with uncertainty. I tilted my head, masking the turmoil within, striving to appear unfazed. "What is that?" With a moment's hesitation he edged forward, drawn into the unknown. "Have you ever experienced that haunting sensation? As if you're a stranger in a place that should feel like home?" The question struck me like a bolt from the blue. I scanned his face, a whirlwind of uncertainty swirling within me as I struggled to find the right words. "What are you trying to say?" "I mean," he said, his voice a whisper laden with mystery. "It's as if you're destined for something greater, something beyond. As if you're ensnared in a life that feels utterly foreign, a mismatched puzzle piece in a world that doesn't embrace your essence." Uncertainty gripped me, leaving me at a loss for words. His words resonated with a raw honesty, reflecting emotions I had long buried, leaving me utterly shaken. Before I could formulate a response, he moved in closer, so near that I could sense the heat radiating from him. Ethan began to speak, but before I could finish, he interrupted me. "I know this is wrong," he said quickly, his voice quivering with urgency. "A part of me knows I shouldn't feel this way, yet the emotions surge within me, relentless and consuming. I fought against it, but no matter how hard I try, I just can't break free." I fixed my gaze on him, my heart racing with a ferocity that felt as if it might echo in the silence between us. "We can't," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. He remained still, his gaze unwavering. "You occupy my thoughts endlessly. No matter how hard I try, it pulls me in, and I find myself unable to resist. In a world filled with chaos and noise, your presence stands out like a beacon, illuminating everything around me." His words lingered in the atmosphere, raw and unfiltered, a palpable tension weaving through the silence. I felt an urgent need to command him to halt, to walk away, to erase every trace of this conversation from existence. Yet I chose not to. I was unable to do it. As his fingers grazed my arm, a surge of heat ignited within me, consuming my senses. I should have turned back, should have whispered that this was a dream we could never chase. Instead, I remained paralyzed, allowing the moment to expand into something it was never meant to become. In that moment, everything changed. His lips brushed against mine, hesitant at first, but soon igniting into a fervent embrace. The kiss crackled with intensity, a surge of emotions that felt both intoxicating and utterly forbidden. I recoiled suddenly, my vision blurred by the sting of unshed tears. "This can't happen," I gasped, my voice trembling with disbelief. Without a word, I spun on my heel and exited the room, the weight of my departure hanging in the air as he remained frozen in silence. The dawn broke with an unbearable weight, casting a shadow over the day ahead. The air between us crackled with the weight of unspoken words, a tension that hung like a storm cloud, ready to burst. I turned my gaze away from Ethan, immersing myself in the trivial tasks at hand, desperately seeking a return to the semblance of normalcy. Yet, with each step he took into the room, my heart raced, and the air thickened with the intensity of his presence. At breakfast, he sat across from me, an unsettling silence enveloping the table. My husband spoke animatedly about his day, completely unaware of the electric tension simmering between Ethan and me. I nodded, feigning attention, while my thoughts drifted to the kiss, a vivid loop that played relentlessly in my mind. Once my husband departed for work, Ethan remained in the living room, an air of tension hanging between us. I attempted to steer clear of him, but as I brushed by, his voice broke through the silence, a gentle invitation. "Can we talk?" I stood motionless, the weight of the inevitable pressed down on me, a shadow I could no longer escape. Silently, I pivoted and lowered myself onto the edge of the couch, deliberately maintaining a chasm of space between us. "I'm sorry," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, laden with the weight of unspoken truths. His voice trembled with the weight of regret. "I should have known better. I never intended to complicate your life." I shook my head, my hands gripping my lap as if seeking solace in the fabric beneath me. "Ethan, what transpired last night is a haunting memory, and it must never repeat itself. We had crossed a line." "I know," he said urgently, leaning in closer. "Deep down, I understand the gravity of my emotions, yet I find it impossible to deny the truth that stirs within me. You hold a place in my heart that no one else ever could. His words sliced through me with the precision of a blade. I longed to command him to halt, to retreat into the shadows, yet the earnestness in his voice ensnared my resolve, rendering it futile. This isn't fair, I finally managed to say, my voice quaking with emotion. Not to me, not to you, and certainly not to your father. He recoiled at the sound of his father's name, yet he stood his ground unwavering. I can't help how I feel, he murmured, his voice a fragile thread in the heavy silence. Deep down I sense you share this connection. Don't even think about denying it. The truth loomed like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over everything we shared. The truth was undeniable now. A sensation stirred within me, a mystery that eluded my understanding, defying all attempts at explanation or justification. Yet that didn't justify it. What we feel doesn't matter, I declared with conviction, even as my voice trembled. We must release this, Ethan. We can't betray him like this. His gaze pierced through me, a tumultuous blend of anguish and unwavering resolve. I don't want to hurt him, he confessed, his voice trembling, but I can't keep pretending this isn't real. No one else has ever stirred these emotions within me like you do. Just as I was about to speak, the sudden roar of a car entering the driveway sliced through the air, breaking the fragile silence that hung between us. My husband arrived home earlier than usual. Ethan and I locked eyes, a surge of panic coursing through us. In an instant, he sprang to his feet, retreating to his room, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. As I stood there watching him fade into the shadows of the hallway, an inexplicable ache gripped my chest, tightening with each step he took away from me. The lines had faded into obscurity, the boundaries shattered, and the world would never return to its former state. My heart waged a fierce battle, caught in the throes of guilt, loyalty, and an unnamed longing that whispered in the shadows. For the first time, uncertainty gripped me, leaving me at a crossroads, unsure of the path that lay ahead.